Welcome to the Divorce Podcast, where we explore all aspects of ending relationships, separation, and parenting apart. If your marriage or partnership has ended, or you have friends and family who are separating, this podcast is for you. I'm Kate Daly, a relationship counsellor, divorce specialist, and co-founder of Amicable, the online legal service for separating couples. In each episode, we look at relationships and separation from different angles, including the emotional, legal, and social. I'm joined by experts and special guests who share their own unique stories, experience, and tips, with the goal of helping people end relationships in a kinder and better way. In this episode, I'm joined by Cate Mackenzie, a sex and relationship therapist, to discuss dating post-divorce. Tune in for an amazing mix of actionable tips, real-life stories, and even a mini coaching session to get you started. We start by exploring why dating is so difficult after divorce or separation. We go on to talk about why friends can really help making dating less daunting and scary, and how to make dating apps work for you. Cate also explains how to date when you're in a vulnerable state post-divorce by checking in with yourself and managing expectations on that very first date. We even speculate on how our schedules can work for our love lives and whether it's possible to have a Wednesday-only relationship. Cate analyses different flirting techniques and how to lean into your natural style, which might be something you least expect. We finish the podcast by sharing some key tips on how not to get overly attached and stay safe while dating online. Just a heads up, this episode contains sexual references, so you might want to listen out of earshot of any children. If you loved this episode, then please subscribe and rate us on your preferred listening platform. Welcome, Cate.
Thank you very much, Kate. Lovely to be here.
It's really lovely to meet you, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm very excited today to be talking about relationships post-separation and divorce. But before we get into all of that, before I make this a very personal therapy session for me and getting back on the dating horse, just tell us a little bit about your professional background. How did you get into all of this?
No, it's so funny because I didn't expect to become a flirting, love, dating coach therapist. I originally was a community artist. I taught dance and drama in community settings, and it was really about helping people to find that spark of creativity. Ended up giving talks about opening your heart was really to yourself and your creativity and joy. Ended up running workshops in 6 countries around the world, really teaching art and drama and dance, just getting people to feel that joy, and became a coach, became a therapist, sex and relationship therapist, and have ended up working with people around dating, relationship, sex, and the privilege of that, because actually love can be a very scary word. And of course, you know, it's wonderful what you're doing with Amicable and divorce, because all these things, you know, the heart and ruptures are really, really difficult, can be for people, and scary. So the support to discover, the support to find out, the support to leave, or the support to discover how to date, I think is real service. And that's, so I started with this whole finding your joy, finding your creativity, and on the journey discovered that people actually had so much wounding around divorce, actually. And that took me to become a therapist, because I thought, I can't just be a coach. I can't just be a workshop leader. I actually have to take it seriously about what's happened to people in their hearts and how to support them in a very gentle, sustainable, companionable, compassionate way to open up to love, but in a way that where they feel safe. And as we know, you know, around sex, dating, relationships, if we feel safe, it's possibly more possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's a big part of what we do, is we're trying to help people in relationships in a way where they're not as damaged. So we all go on, don't we, to do new things and to meet new people or to have new friendships. And if you're constantly kind of moving from one bad situation to another, and then you're hurt and you're taking that hurt with you, it just feels like it's not a good way to progress. So trying to smooth that path for people so they can come out more whole than perhaps they had imagined, that's kind of a big part of what we do. And as you say, dating after separation is a very specific thing, isn't it? So just describe the difference between, you know, dating when you haven't been married or in a big long-term relationship and dating post separation or divorce? What are the extra things that you're having to navigate?
I mean, I think dating is like going and doing stand-up comedy or getting on stage and singing or going for a job interview. Dating is exposing. It's, it's reaching out, it's connecting online or in person in all different kinds of ways and saying, this is who I am, who are you? And then in the modern era, people have ghosting, bots, they have all kinds of different things. So it's exposing, it's vulnerable. So of course, it would be at any age, at any point. And I might work with people who really haven't dated for like 20, 30 years. I work with people with different experiences and that can be scary. But of course, post-divorce, if you married a long time or however long you've been married, how do you do that? And often I'm working with people who may well want to go straight into meeting the one. In fact, most people I may work with want to meet the one straight away. It's understandable. But if we went for a job interview and we only went for one job interview and that job had to be the job interview, it's so loaded. So really, we have to look at it like, can we multi-date? And I say this to people and they go, multi-date, what do you mean multi-date? But even, can you have the idea of more fun, more friendship, and you're going to fit dating in and just think of it as a journey to meet people? It's not easy. You've come out of a long marriage. People are used to maybe living with someone, maybe a long marriage. They have habits of wanting to go straight into quite a serious relationship, or maybe even avoiding that because they don't want the serious relationship. So how do you give yourself what you need? Like Gary Chapman's The Love Languages, or looking at your sexual needs. How do you give yourself what you need so you don't just jump in or you don't keep out? How do you stay in the middle template for yourself, or even recognize where you are? So some divorces have been very rupturous. Maybe you're in a healing or resting or restorative phase. Some divorces were more peaceful. Perhaps that's what you're helping people with. Are you in a more curious phase, or are you feeling really whole and you're in a transformational phase and you're ready to go and try all kinds of different things? It's also checking out where you are internally and externally and what you're ready for, and kind of matching that with a kind of plan for you about how you would handle that. And I feel deeply, get compatriots on board as well to help you with that, because, they say plan something well, it might go wrong, but you can readjust. No planning, it can be all over the shop.
Yeah. So in that sentence, who's a compatriot? Your friends, your family?
Some people that back you, the ones, and they've done lovely studies on this, the ones who go, I've got a friend who's looking at £4 million houses at the moment. She hasn't got £4 million, but we're having such a joy looking at these houses and the fantasy of what she would do in these houses and what's going on. And so there's a creative adventure. So you want the people who kind of go, everyone's got often those thoughts go, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do that. You want the mate who goes, you can, let's write your profile, let's get it up. If you want online, not everybody does. Let's get you out there. Let's go someone. I'll be your wing woman or wing man or wing person. You want at least a couple, and then you want someone to read your messages, because like they bring in, if you belong to a union and you have a job and somebody has a meeting, they're in a meeting about something about their job and they bring a union person in. One of the reasons they do is the union person's brain is not hijacked. They're calm, because if you're up for something and they're telling you whatever you don't know, redundancy or whatever, you want someone calm who takes the notes. So you want the same with dating, because when you read those online messages, a person might read it one way. Your friend goes, he's regular. He's quite straight and normal. He's rope guy. What's going on with rope guy? He's offering all this stuff, but sexual stuff. But is that what you want? You want that outside person to go, no, yes. And you want that all the way along, because really, if you can have really good compatriots and keep your fun up, you could be dating and it being information collecting and do short dates and get to know people, and don't make it car crash your life. Maybe if you can. But again, if it does car crash, like, have your compatriots that help you stay steady. Yeah.
So is a fundamental part of dating in today's world, does there have to be an online element to this? Because as you're talking, I'm sensing that it feels like, as someone who is could be out there dating, who's not out there dating because she hasn't got enough time. I'm feeling it's all seeming to take quite a lot of time, and I can feel my little barriers rising. And I don't think I'm the only one like out there in this world thinking the same thing, but it feels like it's a big commitment. And is the online thing the only way to do this at this point in life?
Not at all. I mean, depends where you are, where you live. But, I live in Brighton, but I'm in London regularly. Those places are packed with ways to meet people, interesting, weird and interesting speed dating. In Brighton, we have like speed life drawing, dating life drawing. There's so many ways that people have created, once a month, Tate Modern has these free open nights once a month, a Friday night. So there's these ways, if you're up for it, to be in environments where you can say hello to people, dancing, golfing, comedy nights, meetup groups. But then we might need to practice reaching muscles. The good thing about dating apps is writing your own profile. So even if you don't go on a dating app, part of someone called Ariel Ford created something called a feelingization. A feelingization is writing 2 paragraphs of your ideal life and how you feel. Because it's like Bananarama, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. It's how you feel about it. Because people often go, oh, I want a rich partner. Well, what would you feel about, oh, because they'd be generous. Well, no, you want a generous partner. Because rich doesn't necessarily mean you really want to write what do you feel, how are they. So it's like having a plan. So it may not be that you go on an app, and it may be that you haven't got much time, but the more you know this because you're a business person, you do a podcast, you plan it, you book guests, you do loads of things which you hone in the time. You do the same with dating. You plan it, you write down 2 paragraphs what you want, then you delegate your plan. You got mates you check in with weekly, I would suggest, or a coach, however it works for you, so you're accountable, because we're built to be regulated by others, and we need other people's brains. Because on our own, we may default,
Oh, well, on your own, you've got yourself, you can make all the excuses in the world. And if you're quite a sort of verbose person, you can easily do that, can't you, to yourself? You can I can convince myself of anything. I'm absolutely sure of that.
If you've got a couple of people, they can help.
Yeah. Enlisting people's help, that's absolutely key. And you worry that you're going to be boring to them, but I guess maybe it's quite exciting for them as well on some weird level.
I think you're giving people a lot of joy. And I say this as I know people are doing all kinds of interesting things, and their married folk are kind of in bliss with the fun of hearing about other people's adventures. So I think, it can be quite fun, depending how we do it. If we do it in a regulated way, meaning you keep your fun things going, you keep your friendships going, you don't deplete you, then it's not just permanent drama and disaster. And if it is, you've got ways of being picked up, right? If it was just you let go of all your good things and then it's just Fisher, this woman, they did put people under MRI scanners when they fall in love. And it could be really, really scary and freaky, because often people will let go of all their handy holds, fall madly in love, and make that person the one. And so, you may be very wise that you're being careful, right? Because part of you may be going, I don't want to lose my stability. And so my key would be, okay, what can you do to make sure that's in place? There are certain things you're just not going to rock out of place, and then make the plan, and then decide how you want to feel about the plan. Even if you don't put anything anywhere, write who you are, what you'd offer, what you'd like to be offered, and what would it feel to be in this connection that you'd like to bring in. If it's a person or persons, people are different. So what do you want? And then you might think, okay, where do they hang out? You might not get it right, but like Waterstones has author talks. It's like, what are your interests? I know women have gone to Italian classes. I used to recommend ukulele classes, because you can go to one-off classes, ukulele, and go, oh, how do I do a C? How do I do a D? So I do a flirting talk workshop, and then I recommend to go to the ukulele class, let's say, because I worked for an organization that did both. And I went to the ukulele class myself sometimes, and then I'd see 4 or 5 women going, and then they'd get asked out. Do you know? Because it'd be like an office night out at the ukulele class, like the office night. Do you see?
Yep. Yeah. Do you think there's a right time to start all of this? So, you've talked a little bit there about getting the planning right and all the rest of it. How do you know when to start? What is there a fixed time, or is it just very individual? Because I kind of feel like there's two types of people in the world. There's the people that get straight back on the horse, and then there's the people like me who seem to wait and wait and wait. And then all of a sudden it just becomes like too big a deal because I've just waited so long and the bus has left you like 10 hours ago. So is there a right and a wrong?
I mean, to me, it's never too late to have a childhood and to have fun and to have play. And if you can look at it like that, it can be as soon as you like. It may be also having compassion for your system about where you're at and how you're at and really checking in about that. So example, I was asked to another podcast last year. It's called Love Twats. There's actually only one of it online. It's called BB Lynch. She's a sex journalist. She was going to do monthly or 2 monthly with experts to help her date. She hadn't dated since 97, lots of reasons. And so she brought me on, and then I asked her about dating, and on her dates, she brought a bag that said back off. She wore her dad's fisherman's jumper, and she told lots of jokes. So I said, do you think you're sabotaging? And it triggered her, and she said, are you telling me I can't be funny? Are you telling me I can't do this and that? And I said, no, I'm just curious. She had everything about her that was lovely and funny and delightful and pretty cool and swanky and great, just all interesting stuff. And I said, but you're not getting past this first date. Anyway, it stayed with her, the thought, because in her world, like it's all, doesn't like online date, doesn't like this, she didn't like Liz. And she did the work on whether she was blocking it. And then she got a partner, and she just wrote about it in Good Housekeeping magazine and rang me again and said, okay, I've got a person. What do I now do to not get rid of this? Now I'm in something. And I said, well, you've got a part that you've got rid of their job, the part that was sabotaging. You might want to check in with them because they might be pissed off that they haven't got a job anymore and might want to come on and get rid of that partner. So she checked in again. So she got a partner. She saw what she was doing. Does that help at all? So it's like partly checking in, where are we? And that can give us options. What we say in therapy is if you can externalize the parts, you can see them. When they feel like they're just us, like she had a part, she didn't see it like this. She saw it like all the dates are going wrong. But when I said, do you think you've got anything at all to do with that? She went and worked on that bit and then changed it pretty quickly.
So sometimes it's just about having that mirror held up to us then so we can see what we're dealing with.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the accountable bit, right? Of course, we come in the Western world where we're all meant to know everything and know everything and do everything. But we're actually community people, we're relational, and we need other people. And can we let other people help us?
Let's talk a little bit about vulnerability then, because obviously post a big relationship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a long-term living with somebody, whatever it is, when you're on the back end of that and you're coming out of it, you're feeling very sore and you're feeling very vulnerable. How does that hinder you making a new relationship? Does it skew your judgment, or is there a healing process that you have to do before you can go back out there? Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, again, checking in with yourself. Where are you? Are you resting? Are you healing? Are you restoring? Are you curious? Are you transforming? Each person may be at a different place on the journey at different times, right? If you're ill, or if you've got little children, or you've got a huge amount on, it's different for everyone. Personally, again, do you need to look at, do I need to build some more friendships? Do I need to build some more fun or exercise? What is giving to me? Marianne Williamson, she used to say, if you fill the pot in the morning, if you light yourself up in the morning, you are a light the rest of the day, whatever that is. But if you're depleted all the time, how do you light up? Because we're often meeting people frequency to frequency. So really, can you be compassionate and get some ways of checking in? Where are you? Do you want to? Would one of the ways be to go to some social things, some social connection things, and see how you feel? What's amazing is sometimes people are on these online apps. People hate them. I've been asked, would I do some dating talks, which I will do, about how to meet without the online. And I really get it. So you can get focused around that. You can get focused. How do I go out? But again, if you're busy, you go, okay, I'm going to make that one night every 2 weeks. I'm going to go to something, but I'm going to write about what I want. So I've made an intention. You would have done with your business. You would have done with the podcast, but you do it in a not over bonding way. So not over bonding is keep things short. So what people can do sometimes if they've been burnt in another way, they want to, I know, I understand. It makes sense, but they meet someone asks them out, and then they want to have lunch with them and pummel every question they can to check who they are and find out who they are. That's not relational. You want to go and just hang out with someone for an hour and a half and then say, sorry, I've got to go home. You don't bring them back. You don't end up with more. You then you say, I loved this. Let's do it again. You want to do it like kids, with play dates, like little kids, you want to do, dating should be play dates, should be light and fun, but it can only be that if we make sure we're filling our other pots in life. Otherwise we'll jump in too quick or we won't jump in.
Yeah, but that's what I find so difficult is that I like going on first dates. I like just seeing what happens, but then I then get completely terrified about the weight of expectation that I've got to arrange another date. It's got to be progressing in some way. It's got to be going somewhere. And I don't want that. I just want to see what happens. I just like I am a romantic. I believe I will bump into somebody one day. There'll be a bit of a spark. We'll chat. It won't be like this is the one. It will just gradually develop. We'll see each other a few times because we have to, because there's some connection there or something. But I want it to be able to develop slowly like that and just not be a big deal. I'm a complete commitment phobe. I just can't bear the thought of being tied down or tied into something or labeled. And that's where I think the dating apps really don't do anybody any justice, because it feels like there's a formula and there's a pattern and there's an expectation, and that I find that completely like the least romantic thing ever.
So how is it to just allow you to be fully you, just as you've shared? How would it be to kind of like go, this is, and really like, oh, like you're naming it, you obviously know it, but maybe write that down. This is how I am. This is how I'd like to be. This is what I'd like. Because you've created a podcast, right? You've created businesses. They start with an idea, and I know people who've thought, I want to meet a person like this and that and the other. And yeah, maybe they feel they're commitment phobic or avoidant, but they go, you know what? I've done it that way. I want to do it this way. And they've got it in mind. And you know how the world works. People do all kinds of things that when they've got them in mind. Dustin Hoffman got booked for Midnight Cowboy. He did not look like the part or anything like it. And he went out for about 3 days, looked terrible, and met the guy in a dirty old diner and emitted, I am this part, even though he looked nothing like the part was meant to look. And the director went, you're the part. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is,
yeah, it's kind of like manifesting, as we call it these days, isn't it? It's just kind of like believing it. I always say that with the business thing, it's always live the life you want to lead.
You got it.
That's it. That's how you get places, by believing your own hype almost, isn't it? Because then you act in a different way.
You got it. What would it be like if you wrote down what you've just told me and you started to allow that? So there's a kind of intentional, what's lovely if you feel like you're commitment phobe is that you choose. So you start to write down the qualities of what you want, and you start to look out and spot and notice the relationships where you go, they're like that, or this is what I like, this is what I like. And you choose, because it sounds like it'd be stressful to be chosen in that old fashioned way. It sounds like it might be healing for you to go, you know what? Those are the qualities I like. This is what I like. I'm going to choose. And, but what we say in therapy a little bit, depending what you feel like, is think about it, write about it, and do it. So like,
it's that last bit, isn't it?
yeah, but not in a way that you don't want. Like really, like think about what you want, and then, but like start to engage in that. Does that make sense? But in the way that's right for you. Who wants the way that's not right for them? Nobody.
No, but that's my point. I think the apps kind of force you, or you feel slightly forced into a way of behaving that feels weird, which is why I think lots of people are sort of almost rebelling against it, because it doesn't suit. But what's been really fascinating in just listening to you then is just the range of things. You're right. The range of things that you can do to meet people now is just huge. And I get what you say. It is a bit regional dependent, isn't it? Because if you live in a tiny, remote, rural village, you're going to struggle in a way that you're not if you live in a big city in a centre where there's lots of things going on. But just thinking about it in a different way and I like that idea of writing down what you want in 2 small paragraphs, writing in rather than doing a whole big long profile or a tick list, which just feels like it's never going to get fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
interesting.
remembering what you want to bring in, what you want to feel. And like, even like, if people don't feel like they've got enough friends that are those kind of supportive friends, think about bringing them in too, so it's kind of, you're creating and starting to live. It can be really, really simple, from how you create your morning to what you do at night, so that you're starting to live what you want. And then you might do little adventures. You might go to a choir. I'm not saying you're going to meet someone there. I'm just saying you might try this, you might try that. What we say in flirting and dating is, can you try some random and rare things regularly? Obviously, your diary, your timetable. Can you try some random and rare things while not losing your boundaries?
Yeah, I see, I like that. I love a boundary.
It's important.
Getting the picture,
And
yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe you've had your boundaries crossed. So it sounds really important that you bring in a partner that's not going to do that or force you or make you do stuff you don't want to do. This sounds really essential. So can you really allow that to be important?
Yeah, do you think it's possible to have a Wednesday night only relationship?
I do. But obviously it's my job. I know someone whose partner lives in Portugal and she lives in the UK. They're both Portuguese. And he was planning to move in. She went, no, because I'm happy to be with you, but she studies a huge amount and does all these interesting things. So she was really happy to devote the time and hang out, but she wanted time for her job and her studies. And she said, if I live with someone, this wouldn't match. And he was very shocked at first, because people think that, if you're in love, you're going to live
Yeah, like you're
together.
gonna have to progress, yeah.
And it's worked with adjustment and talking it through. It's worked out beautifully for them. I know another couple, and they just made a really huge house. They have separate offices, separate bedrooms, separate bathrooms. They have 3 sitting rooms. Now but they're actually very cozy. But they make dates to meet in the house, and they also travel for work. So space and closeness, semi-detached living, together apart, is what really good long-term relationships work out. Because we have these assumptions from all our rom-coms, about what, we're together and that's it, we're together. Whereas actually it's a developmental piece about how to rapprochement, together apart, practicing together apart, being myself, you being yourself. And I might help someone with this, they've got married and they think, I've got to be with them all the time. And they're absolutely annoyed. And then when they make that shift and they have 3 nights out with their girlfriends or friends or going to the theatre, and the 4 nights are with the partner, depending on what situations are, suddenly much happier. So I think this together apart is the journey of deep relationships. And the gift of getting out there, Cate, whether you do anything or not, or whether you bring that person in or not, although I do believe if you start to get to know what that feels like, so from your sharing, no shoulding, no forcing, no coercion, right? Being yourself, more space. When we get really, really clear, bizarrely, as you probably know, with creating a business and even a podcast, how guests maybe come your way, there are people who match what we want if we can get clear.
I think that whole thing, I love this whole the 2 paragraph thing is just like, that's right on my street as well, because I like writing crisp and clear, simple, small stuff. And just actually, if I take, I don't know what everyone else is gonna take away, but for me, I'm gonna take away that thing about being clear about what you want. That's really absolutely key.
There's a comic, and so she wrote 27 years ago, she put an advert, must have been in the paper in America, and she literally put, I'm short and chubby, and I want this. I literally spelled out what she wanted in a man, including his medical records and his tax returns. I mean, honestly, quite detailed. And she's got a happy 27-year marriage, but she just spelled it all out, what she was. And she took this on the chat show. She took the advert. Hilarious. But she said, look, things are quite simple if you can get it simple enough and say, I want a Wednesday night relationship. That may suit tons of people.
But also, that's the difference between being confident to be yourself versus
Yeah.
trying to be attractive to a
Yes,
broad
good
spectrum
point.
of people
Good
and to
point.
see what it's going to turn up. And they're quite two different things, aren't they? Because it's fine when you're younger, particularly, and you're not sure what you want. That's how you have to date, isn't it? You have to cast the net wide. You've got to get some experience. You've got to sort of try people on, test them out. So you have a different mentality. And I think sometimes when you're divorcing, that's the last type of dating you've done. And then you've been married or in a long-term relationship, you come out of the relationship and all of a sudden you're not a 19 or a 20-year-old. You don't really want to try people on for size anymore. You've become quite a lot clearer, I think, on what you do and don't want, what works for you, what doesn't. But you might not have quite made that leap, or we haven't been told or we haven't talked about this, that actually we need to date in a slightly different way. And I think it takes quite a bit of confidence. And I guess the build up work to being able to do what you've just said is to sort of develop that self-confidence. And maybe that's about healing it, maybe it's about getting rid of some baggage, maybe it's about being on your own for the first time in however many years, and just developing that sense of understanding who you are. And it takes some headspace, like I can't just sit down and write 2 paragraphs tomorrow. I'm gonna have to literally clear the weekend to be able to sit down and think. And if you're going to write something short and small, it's going to take you that bit longer probably. I probably can write 20 pages to start with and then have to go back and edit and edit and edit and edit till I really distill what I want. And I think it's learning to date in a different way, maybe, is what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way.
And that's brilliant, because you're already maybe making yourself accountable for this weekend. I don't know, Cate, but you might be. But also it's like, can you do that and give yourself a break? Like, I understand we come from also a perfectionistic society where we got to get it right. Can we get it wrong, but have fun doing it? Like, so we put the intention out. The Wright brothers had no money when they made the plane. There was another guy making plane. He was really, really rich, but he wasn't so invested. He didn't have passion about it. But the Wright brothers had no money at all, but their passion meant that tons of people helped them and they got the plane up first. He gave up. So what I mean is, like, in your heart, in the way you're expressing yourself, you sound like you really actually have a good sense of what you want. You might need the time and the space to really express that. You even have a good sense of how you want to meet them, right? And that's what's great. If you could get out and about. So now you've also got a good sense of you're busy. So now it's like creating a little program for yourself. Okay, I'm busy, but maybe once every 2 weeks, I could go and try and speed dating with flowers. I could try some pottery for an afternoon, whatever your choices are. But that you go and try different things, which might expose you to different things, and depending who you want to meet, how you want to meet, you allow that relational journey while stepping in. So, okay, I want to do something. I'm going to just try some things, maybe.
I think that's it. And I think it's interesting as well. You've talked a bit about flirting on this conversation, and what's the next step then? So if you decide, okay, you've got to first of all decide that you want to put yourself back out there. You've got to have a clear idea of what you want to do. You've got to have done some healing, so you're not going out with all the sort of wrong, broken patterns of before. Then you get there, you meet people. What are the golden rules of flirting? How do we become more playful and joyful? Because, talking to you, I get this real sense of energy and playfulness, and it's super attractive. I'm a much more disciplined. I like doing certain things at certain times. How does somebody like me get that sense of joy and playfulness?
We all have different flirting styles. I mean, starting off with the going out there, one, I would say, by the way, if we do repeat patterns, it's normal. Just have some compatriots you check in with. Because the thing about, and I totally get it, because you're doing a great job. I've listened to loads of these and they're fantastic. And so you're doing a great job at pulling things together. But with dating, right, we have our intention. We may well meet someone and they do something similar to someone else. Just have some compatriots you check in with and go, there's this, can I check in? And if we go slow, we'll find out. But we can keep learning. Now with flirting, we've all got different styles. You might be slightly more dominant. I like it like this, not like that. If you let yourself. So some people might say, oh, I'm not a flirt at all. And then I watch them with their partner and their partner's melting as they're telling them what to do. And I realize you're slightly bossy, which really does it for your partner. Somebody else might be more sensual. They make food and they bring smells and bells, and someone else might be more energetic. They might bring poetry or make a really fantastic interesting date in an interesting situation, or somebody might be more sexual and they might be right straight. How about it? How about it? Now, if you're more energetic, that might be like, but then what you can do with that is learn how you handle different styles. Because what it is, someone more direct, more sexual, they may think sex equals straight into bed with genitals. But for some people, they need a lot of spaciousness, a lot of wooing, a lot of other things. So that can also be a flirting, tool, which is like, somebody goes, how about it? And go, well, if you'd like to take the time to get to know me and we do some really interesting things, we could see what there is between us, so learning how to language. What it means is some people friend zone people because it can get scary when people name attraction. And so then we can just stay behind a wall. So it's having some tools again. I've got friends who are expert. I teach flirting, but I've got friends who are expert flirters. So they might come up with some great lines. We don't have to reinvent the world. We can have other people who help us, or books or coaches or podcasts. So it's really learning how do we bring, there's different ways. There's coquettish, there's natural. Being vulnerable is quite flirty. There's listening deeply. That's incredibly flirty. But there's many, many different ways. And there's a book called Seduction, which you can look up, and other books on flirting. But, you can really discover what's your way.
So essentially, everybody can flirt, is what you're saying. We just need to find our own language of flirting, and we need to be able to not just to understand our own,
Other
but to
people's.
see other people's as well, and be able to recognize other people's styles and play to that.
It's exactly right.
But even when I say and to play to that, it feels, I was going to say naughty, probably the wrong word in the context of this podcast.
Naughty's a great word.
Yeah.
It's a great word.
It feels like manipulative, I guess, is what I'm heading towards. And
Yeah.
we kind of, I think we live in this world where authenticity is everything. So we've got our style. We should just be out there with our style. But actually what you're saying is you need to play a bit more with this stuff.
I give you an example. I was on the Undateables helping a guy called Richard who could never get past a first date. And the reason why he could never get past a first date is because, let's say one date he was with a Russian woman and he kept talking about Chernobyl. He could not stop. And she was asking him to stop and it was getting worse. She left. And he went on another date. The woman had a meal. He decided not to have a meal. And then he ended up eating her meal. She left. And now that just looks like he was being rude. It just looks like he was being uncouth and rude. In fact, he was incredibly nervous and slightly falling apart. So then they gave him to me for an afternoon and I got him to embody himself a bit more, do some role play and embody some new thoughts. So we worked with what would be like a position where you feel good and resourced and good about yourself. And he had these kind of positions. Strong man position. And then what would be some good thoughts? I'm handsome or I'm a good dater. So you could go on a date. So then if you watch it, and I can send it to you if you're interested, you'll see the next 2 dates. He goes straight in with, you might not think I'm strong, but I'm actually the strongest man in the world. From see these muscles and does his muscles. And he goes straight in the date with his key prepared. So you could call this flirting. He's flirting with himself. She laughs and flirts and have a great first date. And then he goes, shall I buy you a drink? Yes, gets a drink. They have a great date. And it goes into a second date. He starts the second date with the same thing. Look how strong I am. And then goes, 2 hot chocolates? Yes, 2 hot. And they're going off each other. Now, someone else, I showed them and they went, well, maybe he had chemistry with the third woman. I went, look, he didn't have a chance to have chemistry with the first 2. He was so in his disorganized. Disorganized means when we're disordered and we're all over the place. He hadn't gone in prepared. In the 18th century, people might wear their home clothes at home, but if you were in this milieu, you had a thing where you dressed up to go to cafe society. You dressed up, played a character, you brought a book, you read a poem. You made effort to create that. And same with dating. When we go on dates, if you went up the I-360, the tall thing in Brighton, or you go on the wheel in London or wherever, it creates those romantic hormones. So dating creates that if we put the effort in. Dressing up creates that. Going to a burlesque event or whatever you like creates that. So this thing about being authentic, the reason why couples get worn out is it all becomes about work and the washing up. they're not creating those things. So when we're flirting, we're taking on board, I'm going to woo you. I'm going to make a nice environment. And so we can, and that is what happens, isn't it? After the 6 months to 18 months, the inner drugstores died down. People then go, why don't we get on? Well, are you dressing up? Are you making dates? Are you wooing? Are you sweetnessing each other?
But it's fascinating. Next podcast you come on, you can do the bit about what happens when you've been dating a while. This is just dipping our toe in the water at the moment,
Yes, that's
isn't
right.
it?
Good point.
So if anyone else like me is sitting there thinking they're going to dip their toe in the water after listening to this, what are your final tips?
Get some compatriots. Have a morning practice, whatever that is for you, but something that makes you feel good about you so you can land. This stuff can be overwhelming. Short dates. And don't write to someone if you're doing online for 3 months. People bond and they think they're in love. And then if someone doesn't meet you, it can feel awful. Get your friends to read it. There are things like catfishing bots, all this stuff if you're doing online. But face to face, make it fun. Never too late to have a childhood. Make it fun, make it play datey. You would do that if you were making yourself the most precious person in the world. You go, let's try some fun things out. So take it off. Have your idea what you want, but take the pressure off. This or that has to be it. You're going on a journey and it will arrive if you let it, especially if you can relax, which is your play and your fun and how you talk to yourself. Try and say nice things to you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Now, where can people find out more about you, Cate?
Thank you so much. So my website's catemackenzie.com, Cate with a C, M-A-C-K. Instagram's at Cate M. Mackenzie, Cate Love Coach on Facebook, and lots of different ways. And podcasts, Love, Pleasure and Joy, or Cate's Meditations. So
Fabulous. It's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you're looking for more separation and co-parenting and divorce advice, you can visit Amicable at amicable.co.uk, where you can explore all our different resources and you can book a free advice consultation. You can find me on LinkedIn and you can find more episodes of the Divorce Podcast by visiting thedivorcepodcast.com, or you can find us on your favourite listening platforms too. Finally, we'd love to know how we can help. So if you've got any questions or you've got any suggestions for the podcast, guests you'd like to hear more about, then please get in touch with us at hello@amicable.co.uk. Thank you very much indeed, Cate, for joining me. And thank you, everybody, for listening.